Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Liz the Lazy Cat, and today I'm going to teach you my super easy step-by-step process on how to paint realistic leaves from real life. If you've never drawn or painted before in your life, then you're in the right place because this tutorial requires absolutely no prior knowledge or skill and almost no drawing. There are going to be timestamps in the description below for those of you who get impatient and want to skip ahead. There's also going to be a step-by-step written explanation in the description box below the video for people who just want to follow the instructions rather than draw or paint along with me in real time. So first things first, I'm going to go over the supplies. The easiest leaf to start painting is a green fresh one. I dried this in the fridge for a few days because when you have a living leaf, it kind of shrivels and changes a little bit as it dries out while you're painting it, and I find that a little frustrating. So I like to leave it in the fridge for a day or two so that it's not going to change that much while it's lying on my desk. These watercolor paints I picked up at a gas station for $2.49. And I also have some cheap little Crayola brushes here that I picked up at the grocery store. I just wanted to get some really cheap supplies to make this tutorial as accessible as possible. But I'm also going to show you some higher quality supplies in case you are a confident artist and you have them at home. I got this tiny little brush from a cheap craft set of brushes that I think they were just called craft brushes, probably by Artist Loft at Michael's. You're going to want a large brush, a large flat brush, or a clean kitchen sponge to prepare your canvas. I'm using copy paper because that's what most people probably already have at home. You want to have 2 rinse jars. One is going to be for rinsing and one is going to be for just keeping it clean to use when we lift paint later. Lifting means when you remove paint. You're going to want a pencil. Where's my pencil? A sharpener. And I have all my supplies linked in the description box below. If you want to use my Amazon affiliate links to support the channel, I like to use a kneaded eraser. As far as canvases, copy paper will work, but if you have illustration paper, I prefer illustration paper because it's a little bit thicker and stiffer and it holds its shape better when you put a bunch of water on it. You can also use watercolor paper. I already have a little painting going on here. And the advantage of watercolor paper is that it has these little pock marks in it that kind of are like little bowls that hold a lot of paint. So you can put in lots of layers as you like without tearing up the paper or turning it into little pills. But I prefer to use the illustration paper because it's smoother and so it scans better and it takes better photos for uploading to a digital media platform like social media. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, I've already done. You're going to want to stretch your canvas, which means you're going to tape it down with painter's tape. You want to have some paper towels on hand as well. So you tape it down on all sides or the top and bottom with painter's tape, and then you're going to put a layer of just clear water evenly and spread it as quickly as you can and just try to make an even layer of water. The paper will ripple when it's wet, so you can take a hairdryer on low or high, it doesn't really matter, and then just go over it quickly and you can watch it flatten as it dries. And so when it's totally dry, it should lie completely flat. I already did that a few days ago to this paper. When you tape it down, you want to have half of your tape on the paper and half of your tape on your surface, on your drawing surface. This is the brush that came with the set, but as you can see, it's really poopy. So that's why I picked up some other brushes, but I'm going to try and use that brush as much as possible, just in case you don't have other brushes at home. So this was the brush I used just for stretching the canvas. And I'm going to sharpen my pencil a little bit real quick. And I suggest you find a fresh green leaf outside, because that'll make this whole thing a lot easier, because then you can just trace it and you don't have to draw the leaf. And that's what I'm going to do. Normally I don't trace it, but I'm just showing you a really easy process for when you're first getting started. Obviously, the more you trace, you won't improve as quickly. You won't improve your freehand drawing skills at all by tracing. But this is mostly for people who, I think when you're a beginner, it's important to have a few projects that are going to turn out decent, because most of your projects are going to look kind of crappy in the beginning. Some people are going to do a great job. Some people are naturals at it. But a lot of people get frustrated and discouraged, and then they just give up. And so I just want you guys to have a few things that you can do where it's going to turn out good and you can be proud of what you made, and nobody's ever going to know that you traced it anyway. So I'm going to move my subject, my leaf, to the center of my paper. Oh, and I almost forgot one more thing that I like to use. You don't have to. But I like to, I got these cotton gloves from Sally's. They're supposed to be nylon, but I couldn't find any nylon gloves in white, and I wanted them to be white just for the sake of my lighting. But this is good for when you're painting, because it prevents the natural oils from your hands from getting into the paper and leaving like almost like a little shadow. It also, the natural oils from your hands can prevent the paint from sticking to the canvas, and so it won't have like, you won't have an even wash, I guess you could say. It'll affect the way the paint looks on the canvas. So I like to protect the canvas from my hands with gloves, but you don't have to. You probably won't notice a difference. I'm just kind of a perfectionist with this type of thing. Okay, so I'm gonna start by, once your canvas is totally dry, you can just hold down your leaf, and this is why I said it should be a green leaf, because the older and more dead it is, the harder it will be to like hold it flat. It should be flat already. Also, when you're tracing it, you kind of want to angle your pencil so that you get as close to it, as close to the subject as possible. And at some parts, I'm not gonna, you don't want to move your head around. You want to keep your head in one spot so that you're drawing from one perspective, because your drawing can't reflect multiple perspectives. It can only reflect one perspective. So rather than holding the stem down really tight and tracing right against it, I'm kind of just using my pencil to trace the edge of what I can see. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Now this is just a leaf from my apple tree. You can use any old, I mean, I just picked it because I thought it was like a very normal looking, like run-of-the-mill green leaf that most people could probably find in their yards. Birch leaf looks really similar to this. There are a lot of leaves that look like this out there, so just try to do what you can. can hold this down a little bit more. It's gonna pop up a little bit when I let go of it, so I don't want to hold it down too much because that's not what it's gonna look like later when I'm painting it. I'm just holding it down as much as I need to make it easier to trace. But I'm not tracing like right against the edge of the leaf. Like I said, just right where I see the image disappear. Yep. Okay, so there's one side down. I like to start from whatever end is most flat. And for me, the stem end is very flat, so. It's got these little teeth in the edge, so you don't have to put every one, just where they're kind of more obvious. Unless your pencil lead is like really tiny, this will be difficult to do with just a regular number 2 pencil. Some people might have an easier time using a mechanical pencil because the lead sticks out, and instead of being in a wedge shape, the wedge shape can create space between the edge of your drawing, or the edge of your subject, and where you're trying to trace. So yeah, this is working a lot better. Yeah, I'm moving my head. I'm just reminding myself to fix my posture. And the angle at which you hold your pencil is really important. Just make sure you hold it at an angle where, you know, you're not like this or getting underneath it. I'll only tilt it a little bit where it's lifting. And if your leaf isn't like mine and it's not lifting a lot, then great. That'll make it even easier. Okay. There we have it. Here's my leaf. Let me zoom in a bit. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how I kind of correct my drawing. I feel like the stem, here, let me back this up a little bit. The stem should be a little bit more flared at the top. So you don't have to make it look exactly the way it does in real life. Whoever's looking at your painting isn't going to have the reference. They're not going to know what you drew it from, so you can just draw it the way you think it looks good. Okay, and now I have these tiny, you can't see them that well, but I have these little spines that kind of go off to the side and blend into the leaf. So I'm going to draw those. And now there's a little spine that comes down, and get this out of the way. Okay. There's a spine that comes down the center of the leaf, but it's not perfectly straight. It's a little bit curved, and it goes all the way from this end to that end. Some of you might have a leaf that looks like it tapers off, before the very end, so you want to draw it that way. So I'm just going to focus on the spine for now. I'm just going to I'm going to look at my subject as much as possible while I'm drawing, kind of like how you look at the screen while you're typing. I'm just going to draw one line. And you don't have to do the whole thing in one go. You can sketch it and do a little bit at a time. Whatever's easiest for you. Okay. And now, if you'll notice, the veins of the leaf don't come off from the same point. They're staggered. Quite a bit, actually. So I'm just going to draw the ones that are the most prominent, the most visible. So I've got two up here at the top. This one kind of goes all the way up to the first spine. Let's see, you can just barely see it, so I'm going to let it disappear and then come back down. And I'm going to sketch a little bit and correct the leaf as I go because it looks a little bit different now that I'm not holding it down. So if the edge of your leaf doesn't look right, that's fine. You can just correct it and go back and erase the part you don't like later. Okay, there's my first vein. Then my second vein starts a little lower down. And let me see. This part of the leaf, not quite shaped so round. There we go. Then it comes in again a little bit. Comes in there. Yeah. So I'm going to bring this vein down all the way to here. See, about the same point. Oops, it's actually a little more like this. Okay, and then I've got another big one up here that curves all the way down, about 2/3 of the way down the leaf. So if I were to divide this leaf into thirds like this, you can do this to make your proportions a little easier. Kind of draw a little grid over it so that you have a reference for how far your veins go down. Okay. Oops. I didn't stagger it. I started from the same point. Okay, this is where your eraser comes in handy. Okay. By the way, I also have a little piece of test paper here. This is just another little piece of copy paper that I cut up so that I can test my color on here and make sure it's the right color before I start painting. I meant to say that in the beginning. Okay, let's continue. So I've got the next one will come down to about here. Okay, and you can kind of trace an invisible line in your head first and like mime it out with your pencil before you actually do it. So you want to imagine it on the paper before you draw it. Okay, and then I've got another one that starts just above the first divider, the first like proportion reference line, I guess you could say. Comes down to almost the second divider line. And then there's one that starts just below it. Oh, and you know what? These taper a little bit when they come off the spine. I'm going to widen the spine a little bit to make it look more like that one. Okay, let's start on the next one. They're pretty curved. Don't make them too straight. They're very curved. I have a tendency to straighten things that are really curved. Let's see, it crosses through the next reference line, and then there's one that starts right below that one, about in the middle, almost in the middle between our reference lines. Let's curve it, curve it, curve it. Okay, and then it ends about halfway between the last reference line and the tip of the leaf. And then the next one starts just above the last reference line. I'm going to bring that out so I can curve it. It goes almost to the bottom. And there's a little one down here. Okay, and then just below the last reference line, we've got the last one here. Okay, cool, great. And I'm not even gonna go into like putting little veins off the sides, except for if we have some really obvious ones. So it looks like we have a couple really obvious ones coming off of this vein. And then we just have one right here. And then, oops, oh no. Don't let your subject move around. We'll throw off your drawing. Yeah, so let me see. There are a couple little veins coming off at the bottom here, just above the last vein. Oh, we have another little one here too. Put that in. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so we have one really obvious one coming off the biggest vein. And then another one that goes almost straight out. And then a little one down here, just below the first reference line. And this will look weird if I just leave everything. I'm looking for some other veins that come off of it, but I don't see it. I just see a tiny one coming out from the center, so I'm going to put that tiny one in there. You kind of just want to add details until it doesn't look super weird. The more details you add, the more realistic it will look. So let's see, we also have another a short vein here right underneath the second right side vein. So I'm going to put that in. So it goes about that far. Yeah. Okay. And then we have a couple little ones on the other side too. Right here. Yeah, that's about right. And I don't see any obvious ones coming off of the first big vein here. I just see one down here on the second right side vein, so I'll do that one. I'm not doing any of the shadows because I'm going to do that with paint. There's also a little one coming off from pretty much exactly the same exact point as this one, so I'm going to put that in there. And then there's a small one right underneath this one. There. Okay, and I want to put these ones here. Let me see, so that one goes out like that. Yeah, and then it has a little branch coming off of it that's pretty visible. We'll do that. Okay. Oh, you know what? This one has a little branch coming off of it too. See that? Right here. So, like that. Okay. I think we are just about ready to paint. I'm just gonna erase my sketch marks. Clean it up a bit. Okay, and I'm just taking away my first draft when I was just tracing before I corrected my lines. And sometimes you'll go back and you'll think, oh, my original lines were actually better, even though it's not like totally true to the subject matter. Just try to think about what will look good on its own when the subject is gone, you know? Like sometimes you could just cover the subject with your hand and be like, well, what does that look like by itself? Does that look good? I'm going to erase my reference lines from when I divided it into thirds. I like using this kneaded eraser because it doesn't leave any crumbs and it's very gentle on the paper. So I'll leave a link to it in the description box. And this is great as a gift idea. You can also scan this and like make greeting cards out of it if you just want to draw one and then make like print Christmas cards with it. You can also take it somewhere where they do that, like a sign making place. They often make greeting cards for people too, so you can just have them do it for you if you're not super techno savvy. Okay, I'm gonna put away my eraser and move my pencils out of the way. And I'm gonna zoom out. Wrong way. Okay, so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So the test paper is important because you're going to want to be able to see what your colors look like. You don't want to mix a color and then, how do I say this? When you mix a color in the palette, so I'm just going to be like using the lid to mix my colors. That's not what it's going to look like once it's dry on the paper. So you need to put it on paper and kind of wait for it to dry a little bit. Watercolors look a lot darker when they're wet and then they dry and they're like twice as light. So just keep that in mind when you're mixing your colors. So because the veins of my leaf are lighter than the rest, they're kind of like a light yellowish tan brown color. Here's my focus. Yeah. I'm gonna mix basically the stem color. That's what they look like. It's very light. There's some green and brown and yellow in it and a little bit of red. So we're gonna leave the red out and we can shade with it later. But for now we're just gonna go for this color here. So I'm going to mix that first, and then I'm just going to coat the whole drawing in that color, and then we can go back over with a green color. So let's get into color mixing. Okie doke. Okay. I'm going to try and use the brush that came with this as much as possible, just for your guys' sake. So what I like to do is just get all the colors that I think I'm going to use wet, so that the water can soak in and really start mixing with the pigments. So I'm just dipping my brush into my rinse jar, and I'm not like slicking it against the edge of the rinse jar at all. Oh my gosh. Like I'm not doing this number. I'm just dipping it in and taking it right out so that I get as much water as possible. And they say with painting that you should paint like you're rich, because paints can be really expensive. So you don't want to undermix your paints. You'd rather mix more than you're going to need, because if you run out of the color you mixed, you're going to have to remix it, and you're just not going to get the same color twice. It's going to be slightly different. It's not going to blend well together when you try to keep using it. It's just not going to be the same. So I just try to cake as much water in here as I possibly can, so that I have as much to work with as the little palette will allow. Okay, that's about as much as this little yellow palette can take without totally spilling over. So I'm going to slick off my brush on the edge of the palette a little bit. I'm going to rinse my brush a little. Now I'm going to get the green all wet, rough that up. I'm roughing up the surface so that it mixes with the water, but I'm mostly letting the water do the work for me and just dissolve the paint. Now this is like a plastic tip brush, which honestly is not great for much. They make them like this because A, it's cheap, and B, kids can't ruin them as easily, especially if it's a watercolor set, because watercolors you can just leave this out and it'll dry, and you can still wash it out later and use the brush. But if it was like squirrel hair or a finer, softer acrylic material, then it would ruin the brush. So that's why they make these this way, with these thick, stiff plastic bristles that aren't going to be misshapen too much by having paint left on them and messy kids using them. So just remember, water is cohesive, which means it sticks to itself, and you can usually cake a lot more water into these little palette circles than you think, because as you cake the water in there, it creates like a little dome. If you've ever done the penny drop experiment, where you take an eyedropper and you drop a bunch of water droplets onto the face of a penny, and they're like, your teacher asks you, oh, how many droplets do you think you can fit on the surface of the penny? And you're like, I don't know, 5. And it ends up being like 35. Yeah, it's because it turns into like a little jellyfish of water. So that's why. Okay, so obviously this green looks like it's a lot brighter than the green of our leaf. So we're going to have to darken it somehow. And I don't want to just put black, because I don't see any black in this leaf. I see brown. So I want to get my brown wet so that I can use it to darken up the green pigment and match it to the leaf. I'm going to do that too. Just caking my water in there. And this whole time you just want to use the same rinse jar. Don't contaminate your clean water because we're going to use it later. And it's important that it's going to be clean when we use it. And, oh, I totally forgot to draw the shadow. That's the part that really makes it pop. Okay, when I'm done getting this brown wet, we'll draw the shadow real quick. I'm always doing things out of order. I'm so ADD. Okay. Just gonna take more water in there. It'll dissolve it for me. I don't have to keep spreading it around. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my brush. And then I'm gonna leave my brush on the paper towel to dry. And if you tilt it, like I have these two paper towels kind of stacked on top of each other. If you tilt it like that, it'll just rest on the paper towel and the paper towel will like pull the water out of it. So that's convenient. Okay. So the part that really will make this painting pop at the end is the shadow. So you want to use, you want to make sure you have lighting that casts a little bit of a shadow. So I'm just going to outline the shadow. There's a little bit of shadow on the stem. There's a little bit of a shadow right here. And there's a little bit of shadow down here. Now don't get too caught up on the little T. See, mostly you can just draw a line in the shape of the shadow first. And then add the little teeth later. Okay, and the shadow comes all the way up to here. And now that I'm looking closer, I see a little bit of shadow on this side too. You guys can barely see it, but I can see it a little bit more because my head is at a little bit different angle than the camera is. See? You see it a little bit more. That's what it looks like for me. Oh, I gotta start using charcoal for these tutorials. The pencil is just not that visible on camera. Oh, and there's a little bit at the bottom too. Well, kind of, it goes in a little bit. Let's see what it looks like when I zoom out. Yeah. Okay, I like that. Boop, 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 boop. See if we can afford to zoom in one more time. Yeah. Let's do that. That looks good. Okie day. Now we're ready for the next part. We're gonna mix our colors. So what we want to do is pre-mix our color, our base color, which is gonna be the lighter stem color. And then once we have that color ready and we've tested it, we're gonna put a clear layer of water, which is gonna make a smooth surface for the paint to bleed into, so we won't have any streaks when we apply the color, and it'll make for a nice smooth even wash. A wash is like the traditional term for a fill if you're a digital artist, where like one whole area is one color. So a wash is the traditional painting equivalent to that. So I'm going to take my, the one I was just using to finish mixing my colors. So I'm going to start with green, and I'm going to put a bunch of that out here. Not too much. It's mostly going to be water. And you can see that this is a little cheap. You see, I want you to be able to see the leaf. Here, why don't we do this? There. I want you to see if I'm matching it properly. You might see some chunks in the paint, and that's just because it's like, it's still dissolving. So as you mix it around, the chunks will break up. Okay. And now I'm going to rinse my brush and dip into the yellow. And I'm going to put a bunch of yellow right next to it because I don't want to mix them together yet. Because if I mix them together, I'll get green paint on my brush. I probably just should have put the yellow down first. One rule of thumb for working with watercolors is just to start from the lightest colors and then leave the darkest colors for last. Because if you start with dark colors and then you paint with light colors, the dark colors will bleed into the light colors and contaminate them. So I just want to get a lot of yellow out onto my mixing palette. Okay. That's a lot of yellow. And then I just need, come on, I'm going to slick that off, rinse it, and then I just need a tiny bit of brown. Okay. I'm going to mix them together. I'm getting pretty close. Pretty close. And you want to make sure that you have a lot of paint. Mix it with a lot of water so that you don't run out. I'm still filming. Huh?
Did I ruin it?
No? As long as you go away right now. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so this is pretty much the stem color. I'm just going to add some more water to make sure that we have enough. And then I'm going to test it on my test paper. And I think that's about it. I won't know for sure until it dries, so I'll just spread it out a little more. It could probably be a little bit darker, but we're using such a small amount for just the stem and the vines that if I make it too dark, it won't pop and you won't be able to see it as opposed to the green. So I think I'm just going to leave it like that. But I'm going to switch brushes for the clear coat. Okay, so yeah, you know what? I should mix more. I don't think that's enough paint. Let's mix some more. More green. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be enough for the whole leaf. Oops, I gotta rinse it before I dip into the yellow again. My yellow's getting kind of thick, so I gotta add more water to the palette. And just tapping it will, you don't have to mix it around every time. You just tap it because, like I said, the cohesion of the water will just pull the water off the brush and onto the palette. Where there is more water, it will grab the less water, so you'll be fine. Oh my gosh, this is taking forever because this is such a tiny brush. But I really want this tutorial to be like accessible for people who like only can run out and buy this kit. Because I know there are gonna be some people who are late to class and watching this tutorial 3 days before Christmas or on Christmas Eve or whatever, and you're not gonna be able to order your supplies ahead of time. If you're watching this right when I put it out, Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and so if you order your supplies now, you can get some nice ones that I'll be linking in the description. I'll just link what I normally use. It's a Grumbacher set that it's like a good mid-tier. I can't remember, it's $20 or $30, but it's just a quality mid-tier, not super expensive, not super fancy, but like not super poopy either. And I also use Grumbacher brushes. They used to make them a lot nicer. I'm thinking about upgrading when my channel gets bigger and I start actually making money off of it. I haven't made any money yet. But yeah, it would be nice to upgrade, because the problem with the art industry right now is it's just losing a lot of traditional artists. There just aren't a lot of traditional artists left in the industry, because like why? Why would you do traditional art when you can do digital art? Like, so streamlined. You could just do everything on a tablet and then print it from your tablet, like so fast, so convenient. But I just don't like staring at a screen. Like, respect, shout out to all my digital artists out there. You're amazing. You're so cool. You can make a comic way faster than me. Your stuff looks so awesome. But that's just not me. It's just not what I do. I don't enjoy the process. All the more power to people who enjoy the digital art process. You're probably going to go a lot farther in the industry than me. And now here we go. We got a cat hair on here. Because even though the animals are not allowed in my studio, actually that was probably like a piece of lint from my glove. All the more reason to use nylon gloves and not cotton. Okay, now I think I have enough. I'm going to test it again. See what I mean? Well, you almost can't tell. It's slightly darker when it's wet. I got pretty much the same color though. Okay, I think that'll be enough. So let's do our clear coat now. Don't forget to rinse your brush. Okay, and you're gonna want to use a bigger brush for this. So I'm just gonna grab the biggest one in this little Crayola set that I got from my local grocery store. You can usually find little art supplies like this in Safeway or Mitchell's or Winco, whatever your thing is. Oh, I just dipped that in the rinse bucket. Put it in the clean one. Okay. So I'm taking my clean water over here, getting that nice and wet. I'm slicking it off a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to try and do this whole area in one go and then finish on the stem. Try to do this as quickly as possible without screwing up too much. You want everything to be wet at the same time and dry evenly. Try not to go out the lines, but if you do a little bit, it's okay. We can correct it. Believe it or not, you actually can erase watercolors. I need a tiny bit more. Tiny bit more. I'm going to slick off most of the water on the edge of my clean rinse jar. Okay. And now I'm gonna go up the stem. So I start in the area where I want the most paint first, and then I finish in the areas that need the least amount. Okay. And now with the same brush, I'm gonna go right in and load it up with my paint, and then do the same thing. I'm gonna start in the middle where I want the most paint, and then spread it out almost all the way to the edge. Oops. Oh my gosh, did you guys just miss that? My screen went dark, I couldn't see what I was doing. Okay, so now I'm going in and I'm just filling in these tiny edges, and you can switch to a smaller brush for this if you want. Ooh, let me do the stem first. I'm pretty good at just using the tip of my brush, but if you're a beginner, that'll be difficult for you. So, whoops. Okay, I'm gonna rinse that brush, slick it off on the edge, leave it to dry on the paper towel, pick up my smaller brush, and I'm gonna get it wet in my paint, but I'm not gonna load it up too much. I'm gonna take most of the paint off. I just want it to be the same color as what I'm correcting. Okay. And now I'm gonna just fill in these little bits while the paint is still wet. And you want to pick a leaf that's about the size of your palm or smaller, because if you pick a leaf that's too big, the paint will dry before you get a chance to work with it like this. Okay, I'm just filling in my little edges, and the paint is starting to dry, so I gotta speed up. You see how I have this one little flyaway hair on my brush? You might want to just cut that off. I'm pretty good at like turning the brush so that it's not a problem, so that it's lifted up. You just don't want it to drag and touch the paper, or it'll mess up your painting. Spartan, stop. That's my dog scratching at my door. If I just ignore him, he usually stops, but he can hear me talking. Oops, I'm doing the stem now. Okay, and that's that. And if you made any mistakes, like I'm making a tiny little mistake right here on the edge, you can rinse off your brush and clean it off real good. I don't even know if you're going to be able to see this. It's so tiny. Just a few spots where I like went out of the lines. I'm just going to take my damp brush and like lift that a little bit. But if you do this while the paint is still really wet, it doesn't seem to work with the plastic bristles. You're going to need a brush that actually like has hair. So I'm just going to put this tiny brush into my clean rinse jar and then blot it off on my paper towel. Oh my gosh, these brushes are so poopy. They don't even like hold water. Okay. You just might have to soak it a few times. You want the bristles to be sticking together and form a little point like that. If they're like splayed out everywhere, it's not going to work. And oh, look, I have a little flyaway again. I'm going to cut that off. Yes, very good. Okay, now I'm going to try to erase that a little bit. Well, it kind of worked. Let me go in on this other one. It's just the brush isn't very stiff. I'm going to see if I can hold it with my fingers. The brush is like too long. I need a stiffer brush to do this type of erasing. There we go. That kind of worked. Okay, and then I'm just going to blot it off on the paper towel. And see, it's all like splayed open again, so that's not going to work. I got to put it in the clean rinse jar again. Blot it off on my paper towel a little bit. And then come back in with it again. And you might want to wait until the paint dries a little bit more before you do this, because you can just end up making the paint bleed out more. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now I'm gonna let me see. I'm gonna take my hair dryer and put it on low and just dry this so that I don't have to wait for it to dry. You want to be careful that you weight down your paper towel. And oh, I have a splinter in my foot. Ouch. Sorry, guys. Oh, ow. Okay. What the heck? I wish I knew how to edit. Okay, let me use my hair dryer real quick. We can skip ahead. I have the timestamps. And word to the wise, if you're gonna do this, try not to. You gotta put it on low so that the air doesn't blow the pigment around. You want the pigment to just like kind of stay where you left it. If you have the hair dryer on high when it's this wet, you'll like blow your water. You'll blow your pigments around outside of the lines, and it'll be a mess. So you want to hold it like 6, 8, 12 inches away from the paper, and I'm going to hold my subject in place. Okay, that's dry enough for me. I don't need it to be perfectly dry. Oh, my neck is getting stiff. Okay, now we're gonna mix our darker green color. Okay. I'm just gonna use the same paint I used before and add more green to it. And I'm going to use the big brush this time just so that it doesn't take so long. So I'm going into my dirty rinse water I'm grabbing a bunch of green paint, just adding that. And you don't have to feel the need to rinse it between dipping it again. I mean, both of them are green colors, so you don't have to worry too much about your lighter green color contaminating your darker green color. I'm seeing now that this green is a little bit blue, which is good because our leaf is actually a little bit blue as well. But it's very muted by the brown that's in it. So it's not as vibrant as this, but like I said, you're not going to have your reference displayed when people are looking at your painting, so it's fine if it looks a little younger than the actual leaf you're painting. And I don't mind having colors that are a little bit more vibrant. I like them. I think they make people happier, bright green colors, so I don't mind at all. Okay, I think that's enough. Yeah, it's about as much as I had last time. And I'm gonna not quite need as much because I'm not gonna be doing the stem. Okay, so now we're just gonna take this and put it right over this. And it's good that this is still like mostly wet because I'm not gonna have to wet it again to make an even wash. And the same technique that we did before. And kind of just leave the spine and the stem alone. And if they end up touching, like if both sides of your dark green paint end up touching and it blurs the spine, that's okay because we can just take the paint away later. Okay, and now I'm going in and doing my edges. You can switch to the smaller brush for this if you want, but I seem to be having pretty good luck with this brush, so. Oh, except for this little flyaway. I'm gonna trim that flyaway. Okay, that's better. Okay. Just be extra careful. And while the paint is still wet, you can kind of move the pigments around. Spread them a little more evenly. The thing that's cool about the watercolors and the paper rippling a little bit is it gives your leaf a natural little texture, even if it's not true to the actual leaf that you're painting. It'll look cool. It'll make your leaf look rippled the way the paper is rippled, and it's doing half the work for you. How about that? It doesn't look the exact same as this leaf, but it still looks pretty cool. It just looks like a different leaf, or like a younger version of this leaf. I'm gonna put some more. Where you want there to be more pigment, you can just like tap it off the brush. So I'm just tapping, getting more and more pigment off my brush. I'm gonna leave some parts because I think they look pretty cool like this. On the camera, a lot more of the yellow is showing through, but in real life, there's a lot of green on the leaf right now. Okay. And I don't know. I kind of feel like the stem looks a little weird like that, but it is kind of red, and a lot of stems will do this. It'll look red or brown. Yours might be a little green, so I'm going to rinse my big brush when I'm done with it. And I'm going to mix a little bit of brownie red. Over here in the corner. I'm going to take my small brush again. I'm going to take some of the brown. Put that over there. Sometimes I like to take off my gloves once I put the paint down because my gloves will like end up getting caught in the paint. So that's not so good. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this red. I probably put too much brown. Brown is a really dark and powerful pigment. Let me see. Does that match my red on here? Oh, this is pretty brown. And that's really red. I'll put a little more brown. I still need a little more brown. See what I mean about the lumpy pigments? You see that more with cheaper paints, but it's fine. You just keep mixing and they'll break up. Just like making pancakes. Well, when you make pancakes, you actually want some lumps and bubbles, so maybe that's not a perfect metaphor. Okay, that's good enough for me. I'm going to add in my red and brown shading up here. Whoop, that's too much. Okay, here's what you do if you use too much. You grab one of your paper towels or one of your tiny brushes, a clean one, and you just lift it up. I'm kind of spreading it around a little because I know it's just going to thin out as I spread it. But you can wet your brush, get it clean, blot it off on your paper towel, and then just use the damp, clean brush to lift the paint. See? Well, I could take it away entirely if I wanted to, but it's pretty close to what I wanted, so I'm going to leave it. Like I said, it doesn't have to look exactly. I'm kind of using this mostly clean brush to just sort of push the pigments around. Now when your brush frays like that, it's not that useful to you. That means it needs more water to make the bristles stick together, or more paint. Either way it works, but okay. Now I'm just going to blend it into the rest of the stem. Okay, and I'll put a tiny bit more of the reddish brown in the middle here because it's casting a shadow. And let me see, can I blend it out? I'm going to rinse my brush again in the dirty one and then blot it off a little bit on the paper towel and then blend this out. Okay. Okay, now see this part where the paint got into the spine? That's fine. I'm just going to take my clean damp brush and I'm going to take away that paint. You can also use the corner of a paper towel to do this. kind of fold it into a little point like that. And then I'll fold the part that I just used away from the new point so that it can't get more paint somewhere else. Okay. There's a lot of paint pooling right here, so I'm only going to get so far doing this. I might have to wait until the paint dries a little bit more, because right now it's so wet, it's just pulling into this little crevice. So I'm just going to try it one more time. Yep, not quite right. And I'm going to blend this into the stem because I like the way that looks. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to take my hairdryer to it again. See if we can remedy this situation. Move your paint and brushes and stuff out of the way first. Okay, so the middle is mostly dry. Just the darkest parts aren't dry yet. So I'm going to take my clean brush and I'm going to try to lift the spine a little bit more. You can also try doing this with a toothpick, but honestly it just doesn't work that well. So I'm going to rinse my brush. Every time it dries out, you want to see when it's like bending like that and flaying open, spreading open, that means it's not damp enough. I'm putting it in the clean water. I'm blotting it off. Oops, just a little bit. And this doesn't work as well on copy paper as it does on illustration paper or watercolor paper. Okay. I'm really not liking the cheap brushes I got. I need one that's a little stiffer in order to really demonstrate this technique to you. So obviously this technique works a little bit better when the paint is drier. So I'm just gonna show you how I would do one of these spines. Same technique. Blot it off on the paper towel a little bit. Okay, this is my nicer brush. This is an older Grumbacher. Okay. So I can just take this paint away. See how much better it works when the brush is just stiffer? Okay. Oh, I can work so much faster. Oops, I should have cleaned that off a little bit more. Okay, so you get the idea on the veins. And once the rest of this paint dries, you can do the same thing to all the other veins. Now I'm going to show you how to do the shadow. Our shadow is kind of like a very, very muted purpley pink. So you're going to mix that color. I've got a purple right here. So I'm just going to mix a little purple into the red. And I think we'll have what we need. And I'm just going to use the same brush because the shadow is so small. I'm not going to need very much. And don't forget your shadow because the shadow is what's really going to make your painting pop. And if you feel like the shadow is still like too dark or whatever, just add some more water. And if it's not dark enough, you can try and cheat and add some black, but I don't recommend that. Because frankly, I don't see any black. I just see this like very muted purpley gray color. So I'm just going to water it down a lot. And don't forget to test it out on your test paper. It's a little darker, but that's because it's wet, so I think it'll dry and look fine. So you only want to do the shadow if the edges of where the shadow is, if all that paint is dry. You don't want this dark green bleeding into the shadow area. So I'm going to start up here by the stem. I don't want too much paint on my brush, so I'm tapping off a little bit. If you have some bleed and it bleeds into the other colors, then just blot it a little bit with a paper towel. Remove as much of it as you can with the paper towel. And then when it dries, you can fill in whatever paint you took away if you have like a little blank area because of it. A lot of correction, you should just wait until your paint is dried. But once it dries, it kind of stains a little bit. You won't be able to completely erase it. So you don't want to leave really dark pigments to dry. You want to get most of the pigment off. I'm running out of paint. I'm refilling real quick. And I definitely used too much, but that's okay. I'm being careful to stay kind of away from the edge of my leaf down here because I have this wet pigment that hasn't dried yet. Okay, I'm gonna blot some off on my paper towel and just come in with my brush and kind of spread that around to lighten it up a little bit. Now there's just a tiny bit on my brush and it's a very thin layer. I think it's safer to come back here and do the edge. And the darker you make it, like right next to the edge, the more the leaf will really pop. Give you some chiaroscuro to your shadow. So I'm just tapping off some more pigment right next to the leaf. Oh my god, I didn't film that whole part. Ugh! I hope I don't have to refilm this whole dang video. I might have to. Ta-da! There we go. Not half bad. Not half bad. Look at that. Look at that. I'm so proud. So if you want to do more details, you just, go in with your clean, tiny, stiff brush. Look for one of these. You want one with soft bristles, probably squirrel hair. Or maybe this little craft brush will work. Let me test this little. I'm pretty sure this came from Artist Loft. It's just like came in a cheap set of craft brushes from Michael's. Let's see if this works to make the veins. Yeah, how beautiful is that? Okay, so this one says Royal Langnickel, but it was honestly like it's part of an assortment. I don't think they were all Royal Langnickel. Okay, so hey, it doesn't look exactly the same as the leaf that we were painting, but it looks pretty cool on its own, doesn't it? Ta-da! Beautiful. And don't forget to sign it. Well, thanks for joining me for this train wreck of a video. I hope you learned something. Remember to like and subscribe and use my affiliate links to order anything you need. Thanks. Bye.